Hey, I'm just here creating content that I'd want to watch myself. If you're into real, simple, and honest videos, go ahead and subscribe.
The moment my grandson changed the password on my own computer and said, "Grandma, you don't need to worry about this anymore," I felt something shift inside me that I had not felt in years. Not anger, not sadness. Something colder and more precise than either of those. Recognition. I had been sitting at the kitchen table with my reading glasses on, trying to log into my bank account the same way I had every Tuesday morning for the past 11 years. Tuesday was my day. I checked the balances, reviewed the transactions, moved money between accounts if needed. My husband Gerald had handled the finances when he was alive, and when he passed, I had learned everything from scratch at 62 years old. I was proud of that. I had built a system that worked. But that Tuesday, the password did not go through. I tried again, then again. I thought perhaps I had misremembered. I walked to the drawer where I kept my notebook, the small blue one with the spiral binding, where I wrote down the things I could not afford to forget. The password was there exactly as I had set it. I typed it one more time. Incorrect. My grandson came around the corner from the hallway, carrying a coffee mug that had my late husband's name on it. He was 26, broad-shouldered, with the kind of easy confidence that comes from never having been told no by anyone who mattered. He had moved in 8 months ago after his rental agreement fell through, or so he told me. Him and his girlfriend, just until they got back on their feet. I had agreed because he was family, and I was raised to believe that family is what you hold on to. He looked at the screen, then at me, and smiled the way you smile at someone who has just done something endearingly foolish. "Oh, I changed that," he said, like it was nothing, like it was a minor adjustment, like my finances were a shared document we both had access to. "You kept getting those phishing emails, Grandma. I set up a new system. Don't worry, I'll handle it." I took my glasses off slowly. "You'll handle it," I repeated. "Yeah, it's just easier this way. I know how these things work. You almost clicked on something last week, remember?" I did remember. A suspicious link in my email. He had pointed it out before I opened it. I had thanked him then. But that was the door, I realized sitting there. That was the moment I had left it unlocked without meaning to. "I would like the new password," I said. He was already walking back toward the hallway. "I'll write it down for you later. I've got a call in 10 minutes. He did not write it down that day, or the next. I had spent 28 years as a loan officer at a credit union in San Antonio. I had sat across from thousands of people at the most vulnerable moments of their financial lives. I had seen the patterns, the gradual handover, the reasonable explanations, the slow erosion of someone's grip on their own money, so gentle they barely felt it happening. I had helped families file fraud reports. I had referred elderly clients to protective services. I had shaken my head in offices and said, "This should never have gone this far." And here I was. That night I sat in the armchair Gerald used to read in and thought about the past 8 months with the same careful attention I used to give a loan application, not with emotion, with sequence. My grandson had arrived with 2 suitcases and a story about a bad landlord. His girlfriend followed 2 weeks later with a car full of boxes she never fully unpacked. They were going to be here 3 months. 3 months became 5. 5 became 8. During that time, I had paid every utility bill, every grocery run, every streaming subscription. I had bought new towels when the old ones apparently were not soft enough. I had said nothing because saying nothing felt like kindness. Then came the technology help. First it was my phone, which he updated and reconfigured. Then the router. Then my laptop. Each time, with an explanation that sounded so reasonable, I had accepted it. I went to my filing cabinet and opened the bottom drawer. My documents were there. The deed to the house, in my name. Gerald's life insurance settlement, which I had invested carefully. The account numbers for my checking, my savings, my investment portfolio, everything was still mine on paper. But access was another matter entirely. I picked up the phone and called my daughter in Phoenix. She was my grandson's mother. He changed my computer password, I told her. There was a pause. He probably was just trying to help, Mom. He changed my computer password. I said again, and he has not given me the new one. Another pause. Longer this time. Do you want me to talk to him? No, I said. I want you to know what is happening. That is different. I hung up and dialed a different number. Sandra Kowalski. We had worked together for 16 years before she moved to a private financial consulting firm. We had not spoken in almost 2 years, but some friendships are built on professional respect, and that kind does not expire. She answered on the second ring. Dorothy. Surprise in her voice, then warmth. It has been too long. It has, I agreed. Sandra, I need to ask you something, and I need you to hear it the way you would hear a client. A brief silence. Go ahead. I told her plainly. My grandson in my house for 8 months. The financial dependency, the technology access, the password. Sandra did not interrupt. When I finished, she asked 2 questions. Is your name still the sole account holder on all accounts? Yes. And do you have physical access to your statements, either mail or branch? I can get to a branch. Then here is what you do tomorrow morning, she said. And she told me. I did not sleep heavily that night, but it was not the restless kind of wakefulness that comes from fear. It was the focused stillness of someone who has finally remembered what they know. I had spent nearly 3 decades assessing risk. I had simply forgotten, somewhere in the grief of losing Gerald and the comfort of having family close again, to apply that same assessment to my own front door. In the morning, I rose early, dressed carefully, and left the house before either of them woke up. The branch manager at my credit union knew my face. I had been a customer since before my grandson was born. I sat across from her with my identification, my account numbers, and the clarity that comes from a night of clear thinking. I removed my grandson's girlfriend's name from the secondary authorization I had added to my account 3 months ago, when she had asked me if she could pick up some cash on my behalf. She had seemed trustworthy. The authorization had seemed temporary. I saw now that I had handed over a thread without realizing what it was attached to. I changed every password tied to my accounts, my email, my online banking portal. The branch manager walked me through setting up 2-factor authentication on a phone number my grandson did not have access to. I moved the bulk of my savings to a separate account he had never known existed. Then, I asked for something else. I would like to see every transaction on this account for the past 8 months. The printout was 4 pages long. I sat at a small table in the corner of the branch and went through it the way I had once gone through loan applications, line by line, date by date. The first unusual transaction appeared in month 3, a transfer of $400 described only as a reimbursement. Then another in month 4, smaller but consistent. Charges I did not recognize on the secondary card I had added for household grocery runs. A charge at an electronics retailer, a subscription service, a restaurant I had never been to, not dramatic amounts. Not the kind of thing you would notice immediately if you trusted the person and were not looking closely. But I had been a loan officer for 28 years. I knew exactly what slow extraction looked like. I folded the printout and placed it in my bag beside my notebook. On the way home, I stopped at a hardware store. That afternoon, while my grandson was on one of his long phone calls behind the closed bedroom door and his girlfriend was napping, I sat in the kitchen and composed 2 documents. The first was a letter from myself to both of them, formal and precise, informing them that occupancy in my home was being terminated in 30 days. I had looked up the Texas requirements for this the night before. No lease meant no formal tenant protections. 30 days was the courtesy I was choosing to extend. The second document was a detailed list of the transactions I had identified, with dates and amounts. I printed both at my desk printer, in my office, using my computer with its new password that no one else would ever hold. Then I called my daughter again. This time I did not wait for her to respond. "I am going to send you 2 things," I said. "Please read them before you call me back." I sent them to her email. 20 minutes later, her name appeared on my screen. "Mom." Her voice was tight. "You have read them." I had no idea about the transactions. "I know you did not," I said. "That is why I am telling you now, and not later." She was quiet for a moment. "How did it get this far?" "The same way it always does," I told her. "Slowly, reasonably, one small step at a time, each one with a good explanation." She exhaled. "What are you going to do?" "I have already done most of it," I said. "The accounts are secured. The letter is written. Tomorrow morning I am having the locks changed. I want you to know this is not a request for your permission. I am telling you because you are his mother and you deserve to know." There was a long pause. I waited. "Do you want me to come?" she asked finally. "Not yet," I said. "Let the process work first." That evening I moved through my own house with a quietness that felt different from the quietness I had practiced for 8 months. Before, the quiet had been about accommodation, about not taking up too much space, about making myself smaller so the people I had welcomed in could feel more comfortable. This was a different kind of quiet. It was the quiet of someone who has made a decision and is at peace with it. My grandson came to the kitchen for dinner and talked for 15 minutes about a business opportunity he was pursuing, something involving an app and a market gap he had identified. I listened. I did not ask questions. He did not notice the difference. His girlfriend mentioned she had seen a jacket online she liked and asked if I wanted to order it together to save on shipping. I said I had changed my payment methods and it was not a good time. She looked at me a beat too long. "Oh, okay." After they went back to their room, I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and felt something I had not felt in 8 months. Alignment. The outside of my life matching the inside. In the morning, the locksmith arrived at 8. I had scheduled it for a time when both of them would still be sleeping. The new keys were cut and the deadbolts replaced within 40 minutes. I signed the invoice and closed the door. At 9:15, my grandson walked into the kitchen and stopped when he saw me at the table with my coffee and my open notebook. "The locksmith's truck is outside," he said. "He just left," I replied. Something shifted in his face. Not quite understanding yet, but the beginning of it. "Why did you change the locks?" I set my pen down. "I changed the locks because it is my house and I chose to. There is also a letter on the counter for you and your girlfriend. I would like you both to read it today." He picked it up. I watched his eyes move across the page. The casual confidence in his posture tightened incrementally, like a rope being pulled at both ends. 30 days, he said. 30 days, I confirmed. "Grandma." His voice shifted into a register I recognized. Younger, softer. The voice of a child who knows an adult can still be managed if you find the right tone. "I was trying to help you. The passwords, the accounts. I was protecting you. I know that is what you told yourself," I said evenly. "But protection does not look like access without consent, and it does not look like $400 transferred in March with no explanation." The color changed in his face. "That was for—" "I am not asking you to explain it," I said. "I am showing you that I noticed. I have been noticing. I simply waited until I had the full picture before I said anything. That is something I learned to do a long time ago." His girlfriend appeared in the doorway, sensing the atmosphere. She looked at the letter he was still holding. "What is happening?" she asked. He did not answer. She looked at me. You are welcome to read it, I told her. There is a copy for each of you. She took the second envelope from the counter. I watched her read. Her expression went through several things quickly. Surprise, then, something that looked almost like relief, which I noted. This says 30 days, she said. Yes. She looked at my grandson. He was staring at the counter. She looked back at the letter. Okay, she said quietly. He spun toward her. Okay? That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? Her voice was flat. Not angry. Just done. He started talking fast. About investment timelines. About how close everything was to turning around. About loyalty, and about how family was supposed to mean something. I let him speak. I had learned that the content of such speeches is rarely the point. The point is usually fear looking for a place to land. When he finally stopped, I asked him one question. Where is the money, sweetheart? He looked at me. You have been living here for 8 months. You told your mother and me that you were building something. You told us the money from your previous job was invested and growing. I would like to know where it is. He said nothing. I am not asking to be cruel, I continued. I am asking because I believe you have been telling yourself a story, and I would like you to hear how it sounds out loud. His girlfriend set her letter on the counter. She picked up her phone and walked back down the hallway. I heard the bedroom door close, not slammed, just closed. My grandson sat down across from me. Some of the stiffness went out of him. What was left was younger than his 26 years. It did not work out the way I planned, he said. Most things do not, I said. That is not a character flaw. What you do next is, he looked at his hands. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I believe that, I said, and I did. That was perhaps the most important thing I had learned in my years at the credit union. Bad outcomes do not always require bad intentions. They require small compromises stacked on top of each other, each one justified at the time, until the stack becomes so tall no one can see over it anymore. You have 30 days, I said. That is enough time to make a real plan. I would suggest you start today. He left the kitchen. I refilled my coffee. In the days that followed, the house changed texture. Not dramatically, not with scenes or accusations, but steadily. My grandson began making calls I could hear through the wall, calls about apartments, about a friend with a spare room, about a job he had apparently been putting off applying for. His girlfriend began quietly packing, box by box, her car filling up over several trips. She did not ask permission. She did not ask for anything at all. One morning she knocked lightly on my office door. Mrs. Dorothy. She had always called me that. I want to apologize. I turned in my chair. She was holding the cookies. Her expression was direct in a way it had rarely been during her months in my house. I knew some of what was happening wasn't right, she said. I told myself it was temporary, that he would fix it. I should have said something. You are saying something now, I told her. She nodded once, then left. I heard the front door close, then her car start. She was gone by day 12. My grandson stayed the full 30 days. I did not avoid him, but I did not soften the terms. When he tried once more to raise the question of more time, I listened, and then I said the same thing I had said in the beginning, 30 days. On the morning of day 30, he came to find me in the kitchen with his 2 suitcases standing in the hallway behind him. He looked tired in a way that seemed honest. I'm sorry, Grandma, he said. I really am. I know, I said. The question is, what you do with that? He picked up his bags and carried them to his truck. I watched from the kitchen window. He sat in the driver's seat for a few minutes without moving. Then he pulled out and drove away. I stood in the hallway where his suitcases had been and breathed. I called a painter the following week. I had been wanting to change the color of the living room for 2 years, but had never felt like it was the right time. Somehow, there had always been a reason to wait. I chose a warm terracotta that reminded me of the hill country drives Gerald and I used to take in October. By the end of the weekend, the room looked like mine again. I put fresh flowers on the table by the window. I rearranged the books on the shelf the way I had always wanted them. I made a grocery list without calculating what anyone else might want. My daughter came to visit 3 weeks later. She stood in the living room doorway and looked at the walls. "It's beautiful," she said. "It was always supposed to look like this," I told her. We sat on the back porch with glasses of iced tea and talked the way we had not talked in years. Not about my grandson, not about what had happened, but about her garden project and the classes I had been thinking about taking. At some point, she said quietly, "I should have paid more attention when he asked to stay with you. You were not there," I said. "You could not have known. Still." She looked at her glass. "You should not have had to do all of that alone." "I did not mind doing it alone," I said honestly. What I minded was not doing it sooner. She smiled at that. A small, complicated smile. My grandson called on a Sunday evening in the 3rd week after he left. He had found a room in a house with 2 other people his age. He had a second interview at a company downtown. He did not ask for anything. He talked for a few minutes, careful and slightly formal, like someone learning a new way of holding a conversation. I listened. When he finished, I said I was glad to hear it, and I meant that. We did not return to the easy warmth of before. Perhaps we would in time. Perhaps the shape of it would simply be different, smaller and more honest. Either way, I was not afraid of the distance. Distance that comes from clarity is not the same as distance that comes from loss. A few weeks later, I joined a group that met Thursday mornings at the community center near my neighborhood. It was informal, mostly women around my age, some younger, some older, brought together by a common thread they did not always know how to name. The first time I attended, a woman across the table said she had been thinking about adding her son to her checking account to make things easier. I recognized the sentence immediately, not the words, the logic behind them. I did not lecture. I asked a question. What would easier mean for him, and what would it mean for you? She paused. Then she really thought about it. That was all I needed to see. I brought my notebook the following week and the week after that, not to teach, but to share what I knew. The difference between a will and a transfer. The difference between a name on an account and a name on a deed. The difference between helping someone and handing them something you cannot get back. They asked good questions. They pushed back. They told me stories that were harder to hear than my own. And slowly, in that small room on Thursday mornings, something happened that I had not expected. I stopped thinking of what had happened in my house as the worst thing. I began thinking of it as the moment I remembered who I was. On a warm evening in late October, I sat in my living room with the terracotta walls catching the last of the afternoon light and the news playing at exactly the volume I preferred. Gerald's chair was across the room. I had moved it back to where it had always been before 8 months of accommodations had pushed it into the corner. I picked up the remote. I thought about what it had meant, once, for someone to take that from me, how small it had made me feel. How I had let the smallness grow because I told myself it was patience and generosity and family loyalty. I thought about what I knew now, that the capacity to help someone is not the obligation to do so without limit. That silence offered as peace is sometimes just permission in disguise. That the word no, spoken clearly and without apology, is not an ending. It is very often a beginning. I turned the volume up exactly 1 notch. Just enough. I want to share one thing before I close this story, because I believe it is the most important thing I learned, and I think some of you may need to hear it today. For a long time, I confused generosity with self-erasure. I thought that loving people well meant asking nothing, holding nothing back, making myself whatever shape the room required. I thought that having needs of my own was somehow a burden I was placing on the people I loved. I was wrong. Generosity that costs you your voice is not generosity. It is surrender. And the people who take it from you, without noticing, are not always villains. Sometimes they are just people who have learned that you will not say, stop, and so they never think to stop. You are allowed to say, stop. You are allowed to change the password back. You are allowed to choose who has access to your life, your home, your money, your peace. And if someone tells you that doing so makes you unkind, I want you to remember this. The most loving thing I ever did for my grandson was refuse to let him continue down a road that would have harmed us both. I did not destroy anything by saying no. I gave us both a chance to be honest. If you are listening to this right now and something in this story lives inside your own chest, please hear me. You do not need permission to take your life back. You never did. Now I want to hear from you. What part of this story stayed with you? And where are you listening from today?